Hi, my name is Abu Musuuza. I'm the co-founder and chief executive officer at Flip Africa, and this is Trace Changemakers. A changemaker is very simply someone who sees a problem within their community and takes charge of finding a solution. So change making is essentially, sort of that it goes all the way from that thought process, that experience of the problem. The beginning parts of putting together testing solutions for that idea, understanding the complexity of that idea, and just the whole journey of trying to find a solution for that and empowering other people to also join sort of like that movement to find a solution to that and many other problems in their communities. So my solution now is to connect young people to new sources of work and tap the informal gig economy and make it a viable source of work and a source of data that enables young people to access services that they didn't access before, such as insurance, access to credit, and building a new professional profile, because they severely lack that, and without that they cannot live their full potential. For me, this issue is a very personal issue, just like many of us across the African continent, because we all have family members that never found that white-collar job, that 9-to-5 job, and we very quickly define them as unemployed and very quickly term them as irresponsible, lazy, which isn't necessarily true. I think there's most of all of them are very creative, very enthusiastic people to find work. I don't know that many people don't want to find work, but the problem is that the system doesn't allow many of them to end up in what we term as employment, which is the 9-to-5 job. Where I come from in Uganda, there's only a 15% chance that someone will find a 9-to-5. So 85% of young people end up there. So experiencing this with one of my brothers, and just beginning to appreciate and understand the challenge from his point of view, just challenged me to start finding alternative ways of how we can get young people into work and how we can help them build new professional profiles without having to hold a 9-to-5 job. I think the sheer size of the problem compelled me to look deeper in that, but the support network of friends who we sit down with, and those that give you honest feedback, I think they validated the fact that you have to go there and try. For myself, I knew I have this thing that I did or that I normally do, is understand the price that you have to pay to do something and begin to pay it immediately. And I think that kept me going, that made me understand the loss that I have, because when you embark on a change making idea, you have to understand that there's something that you will lose, whether it's people, whether it's it's a source of income, whether it is it's time for a certain activity that you wanted to do. So I very quickly came to terms with that. And that's what I told myself. But I also understood that the problem is massive, and and it takes time. So understanding that this is going to be a long journey is something that I had to tell myself mentally. I started my own because I looked around and what I wanted to achieve for young people in terms of disrupting what work is. I don't think any of the organizations that existed, and there were not that many in Uganda, for example, they didn't go as far as I wanted their ideas to go, or as I wanted my idea to go, and so I sat down with a good friend of mine and we started talking about the idea and how deep and how scary, and started asking ourselves the questions, why isn't anyone going this far? And came to terms with the fact that, someone has to, and so I just couldn't find that space where people were talking about, okay, how do we go as far as, data and making sure that we begin to take on these much bigger issues around, social safety nets, and credit, for freelancers. And so that's why we basically sat down and resolved, what, we have to do this. Someone has to do this. I think the support, and for me, Ashoka, has been such an incredible source of, I'd say, initially comfort, right? And help you understand that, there are a lot of people who are on this journey with you, who are doing their own journeys, but they can be, sources of inspiration, sources of comfort. But then they have this entire network of resources, from people, knowledge, access to people who, can support, in terms of, backing your initial idea. So the ecosystem is an incredible part of this journey. And without it, I think the journey is much harder, much longer, much tougher. And so, so programs like the Visionary Program that, give you the tools and the knowledge and the network of alumni to help you, work on this journey has been a tremendous amount of support. I'd say it's a little bit early to say, that we have changed. I don't think we feel that change has come. But, at an individual level, we've seen a lot of young people who are getting their first professional profile, we are moving away necessarily from having this hustler tag, and that is a tag that a lot of people are not taking seriously. So when you talk about a hustle, people are like, it's just something that you're doing, there's a lack of permanence to it. But, being able to transform them into being professional accountants and professional graphics designers and artists, and all of these professions, I think that has been a huge win. But also to see that we've been able to achieve some level of equality around gender, I think that's something that is very easy to forget often. Because society has been designed in a way, not to consider the gender angle so often. So we're very proud that we had that at the back of our minds. So that's what has happened to, to the young people. Personally, I think every idea changes you in a certain way. And I think I have a much deeper appreciation for people. And I was guilty of being one of those who calls your sibling that doesn't have work, you call them irresponsible, lazy. But now I have a much deeper appreciation, of that, and being able to look at the complexity of the situation and understanding. And I think that, for me, has been a significant change. Very simply, I think largely partnerships, being able to connect with people. And I think the deep lesson here for entrepreneurs is don't hold on too much onto your idea. Being afraid of sharing your idea limits its ability to scale beyond the community. You as an individual, and your team can do a lot, but beyond a certain point, you basically need to begin to trust and partner with people. And so for us, it was partnerships. It was our ability to see the connections, that other industries can benefit from the work that we're doing, and being able to tap into those connections and, and being able to trust, people. I think that's really what begins to give our idea legs to basically begin to go beyond the initial family, friends, space into, the wider community across Uganda. Lots and lots. Every so often you raise funding, you're in a high, you lose funding, you run out of funding, and you're in a low. I think that's part of the beginning journey, right? And I think they often call that the valley of death, when you've run out of resources. And I always tell people that you really are not yet on this journey of entrepreneurship until you face the valley of death, where, you don't have the money to implement what you believe in. You don't even have the money to take care of yourself. So it's at that moment that you decide. And I think for me, how do you bounce out of that? I think with entrepreneurship comes this unconscious or subconscious, not unconscious, subconscious force, this love for the idea, this connection with the problem that you're trying to solve. That's really where your adrenaline comes out of, right? So at night, you spend a sleepless night thinking about how you're going to be able to navigate tomorrow, next week, the month, how you're going to be able to take care of all these, bills, whether at work or home bills. But when you wake up in the morning, you're basically driven by that passion to solve that problem. So I don't have any specific cool tricks that, I can say that, helped us navigate, sort of like these really low points. But it's really just that sense of purpose, that connection with the idea. I think that when you wake up in the morning, you just keep going.